God created man to flourish, and the plan from the beginning of creation was for man to walk in the cool of the day with God, to live in daily relationship together, as well as to live perfectly in the foundational relationships with himself, others, and creation. Sin ruined this plan and fractured the four relationships in which God created each person to live and thrive. This is the root cause of poverty. Every human being lives in some degree of relational brokenness, a fruit of which is material poverty. As an urban missionary organization, BridgeBuilders works in some of the most impoverished areas of Dallas, Texas, working to help the poor of our city repair these relationships and break the cycle of poverty.
Growing up in Bonton, man, it was rough. I was one of the most selfish and arrogant dudes you ever wanted to meet, man. I would sell you drugs and then send my friends to come back in there and rob you for those same drugs. I would sell the same drugs to 10 different people. I went to prison when I was 25, and I was just off to a real bad start, man. You see the drug dealers and the pimps. To me, those were the only influences that I saw that were doing well. You know, my great-grandparents worked all their lives, and they struggled so much, and I couldn't understand why this God that my great-grandmother prayed to every night, I couldn't understand how he could leave them to struggle. And for a long time, man, I thought that I was beyond God's grace. I thought grace it didn't apply to me. I just knew, man, I was going to hell. And I lived life like I was going. I didn't care about nothing and nobody, not even my kids. 2008, I noticed, man, I was just feeling different. I could barely move. I would have to take breaks just to walk from my bedroom to the bathroom. I found myself not eating or not drinking anything to keep from having to walk to the bathroom. That's how bad it wore me out and how much it hurt. I was ready to die. I was making preparations to die. I felt like if I didn't have my health, I had nothing. December made 5 years. I've been on dialysis. I've been on the transplant list for like 4 years and like 8-9 months.
I was working a corporate job at the time that had me traveling a lot, and things inside of me started to not feel like I was conflicted with how my life was. Kind of felt like I'd sold my soul to the company store. I left my job, joined BridgeBuilders, and moved into the community a little over 4 years ago.
I noticed that next door, it was a ministry house at the time. There was a few different guys over there I see from time to time, and I noticed Daris. My mom told me he sold all his stuff and moved to Bonton. And I told my mama, don't fall for that. I said, that guy is one of three things. Either he's a police, or he's a cop. I didn't want nothing to do with this dude, nothing.
One day I was driving down the street and Daris was sitting out on his porch and I was getting ready to go get lunch. And for some reason I pulled up and said, hey, you want to go grab a bite to eat?
I was calling on, all the so-called friends that I thought I had. And I was calling on all these guys, and we had made thousands of dollars together. And I was like asking guys, man, I need $100 so I can get groceries, man. Nobody ever showed up. Nobody did. I was outside, sitting on my porch. I started crying. I had cleaned everything in my cabinet. I was eating a canned good for breakfast, a canned good for lunch, a canned good for dinner, until my cabinet was empty. And I'm sitting there crying on my porch, man, and a car pulls up. And the window goes down and he says, hey D, what are you doing, man? I said, nothing, man, just sitting out here getting some fresh air. He said, let's go out to eat lunch, man. Let me talk to you, man. Let's get to know each other. I knew there was nothing but God, who knew what I needed. You know what I'm saying? At that very moment, man, it it broke me down. I went in the house and just cried my eyes out.
So like most of the men that I've met in Bonton, there's a state of brokenness that has led to, it's really a hopelessness, right? It's a place where I just feel like what this world has to offer is not available to me. And I think that's where Daris was the day I met him. All his relationships were messed up. The people that he thought were friends of his had abandoned him while he was in prison. And now he was sick and couldn't command probably the street cred and respect that he once had. The amazing thing about Daris is Daris had this grandmother that prayed for him his entire life. And so Daris had an understanding of the Christian faith and what it meant, but I'm just not so sure he knew that it was for him, and that a good God would really want a man like him that had been through all he had been through. And so as Daris and I walked together every day, he started to see, that this good God was for him too.
He showed me, man, what the true meaning of Christianity was. For years I had read it, I had heard it, you know what I'm saying? But for me to see it, oh man, it's a difference when you see it and when you feel God working in your life.
Every day you can see in Daris this man that matures in his walk with the Lord, and the more he depends on God to lead him, the more his life begins to flourish. And I think you see a man today that has hope. No matter what you've gone through in your life, God will show up and rescue you and redeem what you've been through for his glory.
Darren would always ask, if you had nothing holding you back, no restrictions, no dialysis, no parole, no drug charges, no convictions, no nothing, what would you do? After I kind of got comfortable with him, I told him, about my infatuation with cars. During that time, we started talking about starting a car business. And I was like, oh man, this dude, he ain't got that kind of power, man. You know what I'm saying? Nothing's gonna come of this, man. Now, I run Bonton Motor Works. And it's a job of many positions, man. I'm an auto consultant. I do a little light mechanic work. I go to auctions, I pick the cars, I purchase the cars. I've always known that I wanted to be of some kind of help in the community, because I was one of those guys who, I sold drugs out of houses in the community. I caused so much turmoil and so much hurt to my community. And I knew that I wasn't gonna rest until I was able to do something to uplift it and fix what I had broken. And now to know that, I service the community in a way to help women get back and forth to work, to help guys maintain a decent job. And I take pride in knowing that I've helped somebody, and to be able to see that vehicle is still serving its purpose. I love that, man. There's no greater joy than seeing your work just still doing what it's supposed to do. So if it wasn't for Darren coming to Bonton and BridgeBuilders, man, I'd probably be either dead or back in prison, man. And to think that, this whole movement, it could have went anywhere in the world, but to think that they came to Bonton, man, that was nothing but God.
This is God's kingdom come in our world, that all would be restored from the brokenness of sin. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.